Alright, so I have a new trigger for the TR8, and this is it. It's pretty drastic change from previous triggers I've had on this gun. I'm going to go over some of its features and show you it shooting. So first thing you'd notice is this one slot connector that I have in gray right here is facing a different way than usual. If you look, you can see down the barrel it's blocked by the bottom of the one slot connector. When you pull the trigger, it's a clean hole. So what this ensures is, and you can see when I fully pull the trigger down, it's a perfect hole. So the way I have it set up, it's really ideal for really a frictionless shot. Not frictionless, but a drastic reduction in friction. And the reason I went with this one slot connector that's wider than like these little half slice pieces is that when you go to prime the weapon, so when you're pulling the firing pin back, let's say this is the firing pin here, if you look, the end here, the little knob, always catches when I was testing inside of the trigger area if it was thinner. So that's why it's thicker, and it actually aligns itself up perfectly, and kind of, as you can see, that hole there is really perfect when you fully depress the trigger. So this is how it's set up on the gun, so you don't need to change anything major to the gun. All you're going to do is swap out these pieces in the back. And these tan clips here, they are important. What they do is kind of wedge these. You can see this silver spacer on both sides. And what that does, let's see if I can get a better angle. I'm going to take some pieces off so I can show you. So this is what it looks like with the back of the gun off. So you can see that these spacers really wedge that trigger in there nicely. So it'll be perfectly straight up and down. You'll never have inconsistency with your shooting, and you can just see how nicely that lines everything up. So there's that. I'm going to now disassemble it further. The placement of the rubber band to the front of the gun is going to be the same. Obviously the rubber band around the trigger is slightly different, but it's actually much easier to do, which is nice. I'm going to now show the actual trigger. Okay. Here it is. Alright, so here's the actual trigger. You have a two-piece connector here. This blue spacer, or whatever you want to call that piece, the little blue or tan clip size piece, the blue clip, that's what it's called, is designed to allow this to basically rest just like that. And that's kind of adjusting how far back this is allowed to go. If I didn't have that, this piece would be able to go up further, and it would just be not comfortable when the trigger's set, because the trigger's set, it looks a little bit like that, and then you got to pull it. So if this was further back, it wouldn't make the trigger comfortable. It's really simple construction, but it's extremely strong. This is not going to break. You can test it out for yourself if you don't believe me. This is the green pin that holds the two pieces together. And then this is just like the same pin as before. It used to be like this, and all I did was twist it, and that is now the new pin. So looking at it, there is like no wear, and the friction is drastically reduced, so you're not going to get the grooves on top anymore. And it's just going to fire a lot more smooth and consistent. It's going to charge easier, and the whole slide mechanism acts much more efficiently. So I'm very happy with how it's turned out. Here it is on the gun. I've got a little like Y-con or piece right there, little hand piece basically is what it is, I believe. And that's just a little extra something to grab on, but it's not necessary. And so yeah, let's just shoot it. Done enough talking. So just load it up like always. Here's what I was meaning to show you actually. Okay, so you can see that because it's a green piece, it is actually hitting the body of the gun, and that's keeping it from being overpulled. So you really won't be able to break this trigger, and unless you really pulled incredibly hard, and you'd know that you were wrong. And this white piece right here, the white rod, is actually what keeps it from being set too far forward. So pretty cool. New sound. Notice you didn't hear any like clicking or anything. Like, it's a much quieter charge, which kind of scary at first, because when you're used to hearing click click, so you know, like the trigger set, you really don't hear this trigger set. It's really smooth. So here's the trigger set. Kind of hard to see with all the bands in the way, but it's just risen right above the barrel. And new band placement. You can see that I have them kind of on the inside here instead of on the far outside, and what that is doing is keeping these bands straight back and forth, allowing this slide to really work smoother. Before, it was kind of getting caught on the slide. So anyway, that is that. So you can see there, bands are more vertical up and down. They used to be more V'd out. Everything's just so smooth. You really just have to trust that trigger works, because you honestly don't hear it set. So, not the greatest thing you don't hear it set, but I mean, it's like effortless. And that piece blew up upon impact. The pull of the trigger is really smooth. The setting of the gun, when you go like here, you don't even feel it pass the trigger. In previous designs, you really felt a lot of friction pulling the pin back, and with this new band placement and with the new trigger, you don't, I mean, it's just so smooth. So really happy with how it turned out. Definitely recommend it. It hasn't been tested for an overly long period of time, but I haven't had it fail yet, and I put it through hundreds of shots, and so far everything is really holding up well. And I don't remember if I mentioned this or not, but I think I did. These spacers here, they do help align. I already said that, but the other nice